Welcome to the last weekly box office countdown. I'm Kevin Williams, and we're starting from the bottom up. Michael Pena and Lucy Hale's horror mystery, Fantasy Island, lost more than 45% of its ticket sales in its third weekend in theaters, proving once and for all that moviegoers like Gilligan's Island, Kitchen Islands, and Long Island Iced Teas more than this horror film reimagining of the TV classic. After falling from last week's 6 to number 10, you need to bring me your torch. Fantasy Island, the tribe has spoken. It's time for you to leave the countdown. Katie Holmes' horror mystery, Brahms, The Boy 2, had a 55% drop in ticket sales in its second weekend in theaters, making the odds of The Boy 3 being a Netflix original pretty damn good. The Dollhouse Haunter falls from last week's 5 to number 9. George McKay and Dean Charles Chapman's war drama 1917 earned $2.67 million in its 10th week of box office combat, bringing the Countdown Vet's domestic total to $155.87 million as it falls from last week's 7 to number 8. Impractical Jokers the movie tells the story of a humiliating high school mishap from 1992 that sends the True TV Impractical Jokers on a road trip, competing in hidden camera challenges for a chance to turn back the clock and redeem 3 of the 4 jokesters. Well, movie critics thought this movie was a joke, giving it a certified rotten 29% tomato meter rating. But most moviegoers were in on the gag, giving the Impractical Jokers an 82% audience score and a $3.5 million 7th place top 10 debut. Margot Robbie's action-adventure, Birds of Prey, lost more than 39% of its ticket sales in its 4th weekend, making just $4.1 million this weekend, emancipating Harley Quinn from the top 5 forever. The Suicide Girl Squad falls from last week's 3 to number 6. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's action comedy, Bad Boys for Life, is still living its best life, earning another $4.3 million this weekend, for a domestic total topping $197 million, bringing its global take to $406 million. Just $8 million shy of the worldwide total for the first 2 films in the series combined. But that wasn't enough to keep the boys from falling from last week's 4 to number 5. In the animated action-adventure My Hero Academia, Heroes Rising, a group of youths aspiring to be professional superheroes fight in a world full of people with abilities, also known as quirks. Dooku and his fellow classmates from Hero Academy face 9, the strongest villain yet. Apparently, when film critics aren't at the movies, they're at home watching Toonami on Cartoon Network because they gave the anime feature a 91% tomato meter rating. And moviegoers were even bigger animaniacs, giving Heroes Rising a near-perfect 98% audience score and a $5.1 million 4th place countdown debut. Harrison Ford's action-adventure, Call of the Wild, got its calls blocked by almost half of its audience, with a 46.7% drop in ticket sales in its second weekend in theaters. This weekend's $13.2 million brings its domestic total to $45.9 million, which would be great news for Disney if it weren't for the film's $109 million production budget. Wild falls from last week's 2 to number 3. Ben Schwartz, James Marsden, Tika Sumpter, and Jim Carrey's live-action comedy, Sonic the Hedgehog, had a 39% slowdown in ticket sales, but still managed to run up $16 million more in its third weekend, for a domestic total topping $128 million. Sonic says CG bye to the top spot as he falls to number 2. And finally, in the sci-fi mystery, The Invisible Man, Trapped in a violent, controlling relationship with a wealthy and brilliant scientist, Cecilia Cass, played by The Handmaid's Tale's Elizabeth Moss, escapes in the dead of night and disappears into hiding, aided by her sister, their childhood friend, and his teenage daughter. But when Cecilia's abusive ex, Oliver Jackson Cohen, commits suicide and leaves her a generous portion of his vast fortune, Cecilia suspects his death was a hoax. Cecilia's sanity begins to unravel as she desperately tries to prove that she's being haunted by someone nobody can see. Well, critics saw this invisible man-made tale and made it certified fresh with a 90% tomato meter rating. And moviegoers thought not seeing is believing too, giving the see-through thriller an 89% audience score and a $29 million countdown debut at number 1. If you've seen any of the movies in this week's top 10, search for Last Weekly on the Anchor app to call in your review using our patented Last Weekly movie rating system. If you thought the movie was good to great and people should hit the Cineplex ASAP to see it on the big screen, give it a movie theater. If the movie was just okay, but you wish you'd waited to catch it on a streaming service, then give it a Netflix. But if the movie was bad, wasting your money and time, both of which you're never getting back, then give that movie a kill. We want to hear from you. Movie theater, Netflix, or kill? What's your verdict? Even though kill is a Last Weekly box office ratings option, no movies were harmed in the making of this podcast. Now you can get social with me and the rest of the Last Weekly crew in an instant on Instagram and Twitter. Follow us at Last Weekly. And subscribe to Last Weekly on your favorite podcast app to hear our recap of the week in news, pop culture, and entertainment, plus TV and movie trailer reviews during Trailer Talk. I'm Kevin Williams. Thanks for listening to the Last Weekly Box Office Countdown.